So let's move on to next week. Arizona is the last undefeated team in the league. They are sitting pretty 4-0 with the dominant victory over the Rams last week. They are in first place, not only in the division, but also in the conference, looking like world beaters with the way that their offense has been playing. AJ Green is looking like the old AJ Green. And they also have this guy named DeAndre Hopkins, who's pretty good at playing the wide receiver position. Not to mention Kyler Murray, who seems like the favorite for the MVP at this point, and a guy named Chase Edmonds, who's a pretty good running back. And we haven't even talked about their defense, which has some studs on there, okay? So I'm saying that to say this. It's not going to be an easy one. So What is your prediction, Rob? How do you think this game goes? Let further go. What do you think the 49ers need to do to actually win? And then what you think is actually going to happen?
Yeah, so first let me start by saying that this team should be 3-1. Right? There's no doubt that if it weren't for a very makeable field goal that the Vikings just seem to miss on a regular basis, if it's a game-winning field goal, if not for that miss, the Vikings win that game and Arizona is 3-1. Now, I'm not trying to revise history. They won that game and they are perfect. They are 4-0. But I don't think that this is a statistically dominant team. Great offense, but suspect when you look at their defense, right? Part of that comes from when you put up so many points, teams match that. And so it's hard to have statistically dominant defenses and offenses when you have such high firepower. But I will also say that I'm still not a complete believer in the Kyler Murray for MVP talk, nor am I completely sold on Cliff Kingsbury as an elite head coach. So I may be biased here. I feel that Kyler still has not gained full control over his skill set and this offense. I think he will be extremely dangerous whenever that happens, but I still see moments where it's just a chuck the ball up and see what happens. And I just don't think that's a sustainable game plan within the NFL because those are coin flips. And in the NFL, in games that are so close, decided by one score more often than not, you can lose some of those coin flips. And we saw them sort of go into the tank during the second half of last season. After watching the game on Sunday and rewatching the game against the Rams, I actually thought that the Rams were the better team on the field. That game certainly went Arizona's way, but in a rematch, I'm going to be taking the Rams in that one all the way. And I still think that they are the class of the division that the 49ers are looking up to. That's not to take anything away from Arizona.
I love how you try to put that caveat. That's not to take anyway.
Well, it goes back to
let us poo-poo their record. Let us talk about how even when they look dominant, they really weren't that dominant. But not to take anything away from the Cardinals.
But it's not. And when I say the Rams are the class, I don't mean that they're wildly better than Arizona. It goes back to my original stance on this division in the very beginning of this year when you and I talked about it. I still believe at the end of this year that the entire division will be decided within 2 games. I still think that there will be a lot of infighting that occurs in those divisional matchups. And I think both the Rams and Arizona will get taken down a peg. And I think that Seattle and San Francisco will both catch their stride throughout the season. So that was my preface going into this season, and I am staying true to it for now. I'm starting to, there's cracks happening in the foundation, Sunil, but I did a lot of research going into this season, so I'm not jumping ship just yet. Head and heart?
With your heart, not with your head. Thinking with your heart, not with your head. But please keep going.
Hey, it could be, but in this game, things set up in such a way that it could break the 49ers' way. First, let's start by saying any given Sunday. That's a saying for a reason, right? Any team can be any other team in the NFL. It's scores are so few and far between. A couple of balls bouncing one way or the other decides games. And therefore, you can never say that it's out of the realm of possibility, even when you have a very dominant team against a very poor team. And I don't think that's the case. I think you have an incredible offense that is lighting the league on fire at the moment, and an average defense that has faltered in some of these. And one of the areas that they falter is allowing 5.4 yards per rush. 5.4. That is not good.
Nope.
If the 49ers can't eclipse that 5.4 yards per rush when they're adding, and I'm putting this out there because I'm just going to count on Kyle to do the right thing. When they're adding Trey Lance at quarterback and getting back Elijah Mitchell, because he's out of the blue non-contact jersey. I'm putting him back in the game too. Getting those two players in there. If the 49ers cannot eclipse that 5.4 yards per rush, I will be surprised. And if they do eclipse that, how do you lose? With the defense the 49ers have, that 5.4 yards per rush, I think that's a recipe for an upset, Sunil.
Interesting. That's all I got to say. I'm going hand gestures. Thinking with your heart, not with your brain. Now, when you put it that way, hey, you should have a job in sales because, hey, that was a really, really, really good argument. Let me downplay the 4-0 team by saying they shouldn't be 4-0. They're 3-1. Even though they blew out the Rams look like a better team and all of this kind of stuff. Look, they won all of those games. That Minnesota game was close. They've beaten the Titans, beat the brakes off of the Titans. They beat the brakes off of the Rams. Those are two teams that people expected to be playoff teams. Now, everybody wants to say, oh, Cliff Kingsbury, all this kind of stuff. Look, I would much rather have Cliff Kingsbury and how that offense is looking right now than how our offense is looking right now with our coach and our offensive genius. All right. So we could just keep thinking Arizona is going to be Arizona, but let's be real about the 49ers being 49ers. 4 out of the last 5 years or 3 out of the last 4 years, we haven't made the playoffs and we haven't been able to really beat anybody consistently. This is the fourth year that is looking like a team that could only beat bad teams and not good teams. Arizona is a good team. So by every stretch of the imagination, just based off of what we've seen from this 49ers team, if it was a bad team, they have a chance. If it is a good team, more than likely, it is going to be a loss. Now, this is the reason why I believe, unfortunately, the 49ers are going to lose. I think this defense actually makes this Cardinals offense look pedestrian at times early in this game. But this offense is not going to be able to score. And because this offense is trash, and I do not believe Trey is going to start. I believe Jimmy is going to start.
Ooh.
That's the only reason why he's out there at the press conference. That's the only reason why all of a sudden all the reports are that he's healthy. If Jimmy was not going to start, they would have just said his injury is his injury and he's not going to be able to start. Because then they give Trey all the confidence and they have that caveat that it was because Jimmy was injured the only reason why Trey is starting versus any other reason why Trey is starting, right?
Right.
So to me, this is all pointing to the fact that Jimmy is going to be the starter. So to me, the rushing game, great. Hopefully they could run for 6 yards per carry, and that does change the way that this offense is there. But at a certain point, Jimmy's going to have to throw the ball. And one thing that you might think that the Arizona Cardinals are not a good defense, but they have two extremely good people that could rush the quarterback in Chandler Jones and slipping my man, the guy that they got from Houston, J.J. Watt. And they also have a safety by the name of Budda Baker.
Yeah.
Who loves picking off the ball. This is a secondary that will get interceptions, and our starting quarterback is somebody who loves to throw interceptions. So to me, I think it's going to go back to the turnover game, this offense letting the defense down, which is why I think this is going to be a 2-score victory for the Arizona Cardinals.
I think that if things play out the way you're describing them, you have correctly predicted the way in which it will go. And what you lay out is a reasonable course for this football game. For me, the key way in which the 49ers pull this upset that I'm predicting here is mistake-free football. It has to be. You cannot turn the ball over. And my prediction of Trey Lance starting is a quarterback who very seldomly turns the ball over, right? When you go back to his college career, the man held on to that thing like I clutch my hundies, right? Like he's holding on to that thing for dear life. So we need to play complementary football. We got to take advantage of that defense that's allowing 5.4 yards per rush. Our defensive line has to be dominant, has to contain Murray in much the same way that they did Russell Wilson, allowing a few sneaks here and there where he gets outside of the pocket. But for the vast majority of the day, they hold tight. We need fewer penalties from the cornerbacks than we got against Seattle. And the defense must force that critical turnover. That, to me, is the way in which the 49ers can pull this off. So the question is, can they? And I think the answer there is absolutely. They can. All of those things I just laid out are possible. They could happen. Now, if you're asking me, will they? It's highly unlikely. It is. I will give you that my outcome is highly unlikely, that I am playing a little bit with my heart here. The 49ers have not shown that they can play mistake-free football to this point, and I do believe that's a reflection of their head coach. I think that when you're unable to execute at the highest level, that the buck stops here with the head coach. He needs to own that. But I also believe that because of the way in which they're struggling, it's possible that the light will come on at some point. And I think that this game sets up to be one where that could happen. So I'm basically predicting that upset. I'm willing to bet on the fact that the 49ers are going to do it. I haven't decided what the bet's going to be yet, but I'm doing it. I'm going to throw it out there. I'll put it on my channel. I'll let you know next week what it ended up being, but I'm laying my money where my mouth is. I'm going to put money down with Oregon scoreboard or whatever our lottery system is here for betting in Oregon. I'm putting my money on the money line for the Niners to win. I've got them 27-24.
Woo! Wait, a field goal with a brand new field goal kicker. That's what you think is going to happen.
Hey, maybe that's 4 touchdowns with 1 missed extra point.
Okay, more likely, more than likely. We got some differing opinions. Steve-O Supremo, call animal control. Lance is throwing ducks everywhere.
That was a good one. I got to give it to him.
Harold Murillo on the other side of it. This is why Trey Lance should play the entire game. Ricardo Muniz can't sack Lance. It falls on Kyle. He needs to get his act together.
That's the truest statement of the day, my friend.
Beautiful. Well, hey, we're a few games out. There's going to be a great NFC West rivalry game tomorrow with the Rams and the Seahawks. So that's going to set up the week, and then obviously the Sunday playing the Cardinals. I'm going to preface this. Last week I said Seattle was going to win. Unfortunately, I was right. This week I do think Arizona is going to win. I hope you're right. This is exactly what I said last week. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right. But I don't
if it makes you feel any better, well, it probably makes you feel worse. We should have won that game against Seattle. We went through the statistics. There's no reason you should lose a game where you dominate the other team to that extent. Losing that is next level losing. That is next level losing. That really is. You want to sit Kyle down and be like, so Kyle, that was really amazing how you managed to lose that game. Would you walk us through the decision-making that got you there?
Yeah.